So why is a guy who has a mostly barbecue channel making creme brulee? Well, that's why my channel is called Cooking with Rye, because I like to cook lots of different things. And this creme brulee recipe is easy. I mean, everybody's probably had creme brulee and you look at it and you go, I can't make that. You can make this. Now, many of the recipes I've tried over the years, they all rely on just a time in the oven and just sort of that jiggle test, what they say. You know, if the center of the custard looks slightly jiggly, it's time to take it out of the oven. That's not really an easy thing to be able to determine for a lot of people, but what people can determine is temperature. So an instant read thermometer will really help you through this recipe, both in the heating the cream stage and determining doneness of the creme brulee. I'm using my ThermaPen 1. This is sort of the industry standard. I love this thing. It's super accurate, super fast, but any instant read thermometer that you trust will work. Now, first to get started, I want to get our ramekins ready. And ramekins are just these sort of ceramic dishes down here that you make the creme brulee and you bake it in. Now, these three are in a baking tray with a little towel in the bottom. That's really helpful because we're going to be putting some hot water in here before we put it in the oven after we fill these. That's sort of a water bath to help them cook more gently. And this towel helps prevent these from sloshing around. It just sort of holds them in place. The other thing I like to do is just give a really light coating of butter on the inside of the ramekins, not heavy at all. So you just take a stick of butter, go on the sides and the bottom, and that's it. Now, the other thing we're going to want to do is have hot water ready, because once we get over to the stove and do our cream and then come back here and beat our eggs with some sugar and get everything going, we're going to want to move a little quickly. So get some water heated up. You're going to need enough to come up about halfway on these ramekins in this baking dish. So if you heat up a saucepan of water to boiling and then just let it stay warm, that'll work fine. And these right here are 8-ounce ramekins. This recipe makes about 24 ounces of filling. So if you have 6-ounce ramekins, it'll give you 4. If you have 8-ounce ramekins, it'll give you 3 of these. So I'm going with these larger ones because I like the better presentation of bigger creme brulees. But if you have smaller ones, nothing wrong with that at all. And that's the other reason that using a thermometer to determine the doneness of the creme brulee really helps, because a larger creme brulee may take longer in an oven or a smaller one may take less. Every oven's a little different. We're going to be cooking in a preheated 325 degree oven today. And we'll start checking these after about 30 or 40 minutes in the oven to see what their temperature is. But that temperature really makes this something where the end result comes out really perfect. So let's go ahead, head over to the stove and heat up our cream. So in my saucepan here, I have 2 cups of heavy cream over a medium-low flame. To this, I'm going to add 1/8 teaspoon of kosher salt. Just give that a quick mix. And we're just going to heat that cream until it comes to about 160 degrees. Really just sort of hot, not boiling. We want that nice and warm. Once that hits 160 degrees, we're going to take it off the heat, let it sit for about 5 minutes while we get our egg and sugar mixture going, and then we will get these together to make our custard. We're just going to keep going here until we get to that 160 degrees. Just give it a stir occasionally. And there we are. We're almost at 160 degrees, 158, 159, 161. We are done. Turn the heat off. And right now I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. Give that a quick stir. And this is coming off the stove. So as our cream mixture cools down for a few minutes, we have our eggs and sugar to get ready. Now I've got 5 egg yolks in here, just the yolks. And if you have the whites left over, you can actually freeze them for a couple weeks and use them in other things. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1/2 cup of sugar to this. You can use granulated sugar. I'm actually using a cane sugar because I just sort of like the texture of it a little better. But regular granulated sugar will work fine. Put this in there. And we're going to beat everybody together until we have a sort of completely homogeneous color here, where it lightens up, creates a nice thickening base for our custard. That's what we're looking for. So our cream mixture has been cooling for a few minutes now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding it a little bit at a time until we get about 1/4 to 1/2 of it in here. And you're going to whisk continually. This is called tempering. We don't want to cook these eggs and create scrambled eggs. We want to bring it slowly up to temperature by adding a little bit of this hot cream, this warm cream at a time. Totally forgot to put a towel under my bowl, and that really helps keep it steady so that it's not spinning around as you're adding the cream and whisking. Just a little at a time here as we stream it. Now, some people do this much more quickly, but if you're not an expert, and I'm not an expert, I like to do this slowly to really give this a chance to come up to temperature slowly. You really start to get that nice vanilla smell now coming off this. The other thing that works nicely if you do it slowly, the tempering like this, is you have a lot less chance of getting a little bits of scrambled eggs in there. Some people will strain the custard after they do this portion. I don't, because if you take your time, it's going to be smooth. You won't need to strain it. Now we're going to start adding it a little more quickly because our egg mixture is really coming up to temp. It's always funny when you make this and you think, that's really loose. How does it ever turn into that sort of thicker creme brulee consistency at the end? It does. If you've done this a lot, you know that. If you've never done it and you're thinking, maybe I'll try it the first time, trust the process, it'll work. Now I can actually start adding straight from the pan a little more quickly. Now I'm going to transfer this into a pitcher so that we can more easily pour into our ramekins, and then we're going to fill them. So our ramekins are ready, and we're just going to pour an even amount in each one, alternating if we need to just get it right. Now we need to add our water here. So remember, we're going to bring it up about halfway here on these with hot water. The water doesn't need to be boiling, it just needs to be hot. That looks pretty good right there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get these in our preheated 325-degree oven, and in about 30 or 40 minutes, we'll take our first temperature check to see where they're at. And when you move them to the oven, be careful. There's a lot of water sloshing around. You don't want it to get into the ramekins. So I'll see you back here when it's time to start checking the temperature on our creme brulee. All right, we are right at about 30 minutes here for our first temperature check. The ultimate temperature you want is 174 degrees. If you're a couple degrees short of that or a couple degrees beyond it, don't freak out. It's going to be fine. But we're going to get a check here, see how we're doing, and then we may need to check more frequently if we're getting close. I know they always say don't open the oven door for things, but when you're doing something like this and you really want to nail that temperature, unless you have a probe that you can put in there with a wire running out to a readout, that would be perfect, but I haven't found a good setup for that yet in the oven into a liquid sort of dish like a ramekin. So we're going to check it and see how we're doing, see how much more we've got to go. Looks like we're at about 134 degrees there, if you can see that. About 140. So we're doing well. So at 140 degrees after 30 minutes, I'm going to check this again in 10 minutes. We've been going another 10 minutes, so let's check our temp. We're at about, it looks like 150 degrees. So I'm going to let this go another 10 minutes and check it again. This is just sort of the way you do it. Unless you're an expert, you can say it's going to be 55 minutes and this jiggle factor is going to tell you when it's done. I've just found this to be a really good method to sort of nail that consistency that you want in a finished creme brulee. All right, time for another temperature check. I think we're probably close. I think 173.6. I think I'm good with that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get our creme brulee out of the oven. So here are our creme brulee that have finished baking in the oven, and now it is time for them to cool down on this rack for about 20 minutes. Then they're going to go in the refrigerator for at least 2 to 3 hours, but that's one of the great things about preparation for creme brulee is you can make these to this stage a day or two ahead of time. Then get them out of the refrigerator when you're ready to put that sugar coating on top and torch it and serve it. But these right here, they're going in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 hours. Then we'll get them back out here, coat them with some sugar, torch them, and have a taste. So I've gone ahead and pulled out one of our creme brulees from the refrigerator. It's been in there about 2.5 hours, not a full 3, but more than 2, which is really what you want. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dust the surface of this with 1 to 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. That's just the regular white table sugar. I prefer that for this dusting part over the cane sugar. I just like the cane sugar as you're making the custard. So you just wanna try and get an even dusting here, all the way around. If you miss a spot or two, it's not gonna hurt anything. But try and get a little bit everywhere. And now we're going to torch this, and I'm just using my little butane torch here. If you don't have one of those, you can do this in the broiler, but you really have to watch it. Really, it's gonna take a minute, maybe 2, maybe not even that. And that's why you have to watch it, because it will burn very quickly. That's why I like using a little propane torch. They call them culinary torches. They're not that expensive, and they do a really nice job. And we're just gonna move the flame around on here to heat it evenly to get a nice brown color in spots. If it gets a little dark in other spots, that's fine. And you might see some wisps of smoke, that's normal. And this is actually optional. You don't have to do this. You can eat the creme brulee custard just as it is, but this is sort of the traditional preparation for this. You'll see as that sugar heats up and melts that it will start to get those golden spots. Some a little darker, and that's fine. Now we're gonna let this cool for just a couple minutes, and then we are going to dress it up a little bit with some raspberries and have a taste. But really, you can dress this with anything you want. Some whipped cream, some mint, anything. Or just eat it like this. All right, so our creme brulee after torching has cooled down just a little bit, and now I'm just gonna dress it with some raspberries. And if you get raspberries around this time of year, Valentine's Day, if you cut them just right in half, they look like little hearts. So here we go, let's dress this up with some little hearts on here. And again, you could add whipped cream to this, mint leaves, anything you want, but really honestly, this is about all it needs, just a little bit of extra flair there. You could hit it with some lemon zest, anything like that. Once you've created the base, that creme brulee custard in here, it's gonna be perfect. Let's go in and see if we can hear that nice little crack of that sugar breaking. Did you hear that? Oh, let's get down in there. And there we go. That's what we're looking for. Can you see that just nice creamy little filling in that custard there? This is what I meant about this. It is not difficult to make. There's a few steps, but it's not something where you have to be a chef for 20 years to master. This is easy and it's tasty. Just silky smooth vanilla flavor here. This is like the perfect dessert to me.